The content of this video is intended for service technicians. The procedures and processes depicted are to be performed only by trained technicians. All procedures and processes were filmed in a controlled environment. Some safety equipment and/or safety guards or barriers have been removed or foregone for visual clarity. Always read and apply the general and specific safety rules and safety messages presented in the appropriate service manual and operator's manual. Always wear appropriate personal protection equipment.
This is Tyler with the Tech Training Group out of Racine, and today we're going to be looking at how to set up automatic crop settings, or ACS, on a mid-range combine. So the first thing we need to take a look at is to make sure that we have ACS, or automatic crop settings, actually enabled on the combine. So in order to do that, we need to go to Toolbox. Across the bottom, we're going to need to scroll over and find the Electrical tab. Go into the Electrical tab, where we will find a ACS status drop-down menu. Now obviously, if we want to use automatic crop settings, we need to have this switched to on. So we can go ahead and kick it to on. So now we have the system enabled. Now the next thing we need to do is set up a few things on a run screen that the operator can interact with. So in order to do that, to set up a run screen, we're going to need to go to Toolbox, find our Layout tab at the bottom, and then pick a run screen. It does not matter which run screen the operator chooses, it's completely customizable. But one that we're going to use here for this exercise is run 4. So on a run screen, we need to place 3 items, and those 3 items are crop type. So we'll go ahead and find crop type. We need to find work condition. So we'll scroll down and find work condition. And then the last one is machine settings. All right. Now you can see the layout that I've created. I've just called it video here for this purpose. But if you have this set to the default layout, the operator will not be able to make any changes to this layout for a run screen. So to do this, obviously the operator needs to create a new layout like I've done here, and I've just called it video. All right, now once we have our run screen set up here, have our layout set up appropriately, we can go back into Toolbox or back to the main screen, and then go to our run screens. And remember, we have this set up on run screen 4, so when I navigate to run screen 4, you can see I have crop type, work condition, and then my machine settings icons set up there as well. Now, this is defaulted to a crop type of wheat. Perhaps we don't want to do wheat for a crop type. Maybe we want to do corn. So we would need to go in and change that crop type. Now, the axial flow combine is going to come preloaded with about 50 different options for crop types, and chances are you have an operator that's not going to be involved in all 50 of those. So what you can do actually to narrow this down quite a bit, if we jump out of this temporarily and hit the back button and go into our data management tab, across the bottom there is a tab called filter, and this is where we can actually filter the crop list. So if we click on Filter Crop List, you can see it comes up with a list in alphabetical order of all the crops that we could potentially utilize or set for. And maybe we only have 3 that we actually want to be set up for. Maybe we only want to do soybeans, corn, and then wheat. So what we can actually do, you can see all of the crops, if I were to scroll down through the list, all of the crops are currently selected. So what we can do is go in and uncheck all of the crops. So hit none. Our check boxes disappear, and then we can go down through the list and find only the crops that are applicable to what our customers are going to be using. So I'll scroll back up and let's see, soybeans or beans, soybean. We'll scroll down and find corn, and then we will scroll down the list and find a wheat crop. So we'll do spring wheat here. All right, once you have the crop selected that you are only interested in, you can hit enter. And now we can jump back to our run screen, back to run screen number 4. So we're going to go ahead and jump this, or change this over from wheat into corn. So we'll select a new crop type. Now, when we select a crop type, we are automatically going to be populated with the default work condition. And what the default work condition is actually going to do for us is automatically populate the recommended settings from the operator's manual and have the machine use those as an initial starting point. And this is recommended for the operator, again, just because we're going to be by the book, set the way the operator's manual would like to have us set. But just from a starting point, if the operator feels that they need to make an adjustment to some component or setting, one direction or the other, that's what we're going to talk about here shortly. So this again, default work condition is going to be by the book settings. Now, when we have a work condition selected, either our default work condition or perhaps one that we're going to create here shortly, we have 3 buttons down here in our machine settings window on our run screen. The first one that we have here is our save button. Next we have set or recall. And then the last one here with the I is our current machine settings. All right. Now, the save button is going to be used when we have a user-defined work condition, and we want to save our current machine settings into that user-defined work condition. The set or recall button is going to be used when we want to apply the machine settings stored in that work condition to our machine as it currently sits. So I don't know off the top of my head how this machine is set in terms of concave clearance, sieve settings, anything like that right now. But if I want to quickly adjust those 5 things, so again, rotor speed, concave clearance, fan speed, sieve settings for both the upper and lower sieve, this is the button I would need to use if I wanted to apply the default work condition or the operator manual settings to this combine. So if I press this button here, you can hear the machine start to make some adjustments. So the sieves will start to change if they're not set to where they currently need to be. The concave will open or close to match that default work condition. And as soon as they have themselves set, you can see that this button changed from black to grayed out now, meaning that the settings saved with our default work conditions now match our settings for the machine. So when you click on the work condition window there, you have 3 things that can possibly be brought up. So we have select, and what that is going in and selecting a new work condition or one that you have created previously. So you can see here that I've already made one for drought. So I've named a new work condition and named it drought. And then we have our default in here as well. And default is always going to be in there. You cannot delete the default work condition, so he will always be in there. Now, the one up at the top where it says none, if we select none for a work condition, that is essentially the same as turning the ACS or automatic crop settings system off. So we need to make sure that we have something other than none selected if we want to use our ACS system. All right. Now, if I go ahead and select drought here, it's important to note that each work condition is going to be tied to the crop type. So next year, or maybe later in the harvest season, maybe I jump from corn, jump into soybeans, and come back to corn. As soon as I select that crop type specifically that I need to be in, we'll automatically populate with all of our work condition options that we have created previous in the harvest season or in previous years as well, if you run into that same type of field condition or harvest condition. All right. Now, in our drought work condition, this is where we can go in and create a user-defined setting for this work condition. So we can, as we're moving through the field, maybe we feel we need to close the concave down just a little bit. Maybe we're dealing with some slightly smaller cobs, and to do an efficient job of threshing and separating, we need to close down the concave just slightly. All right, so over on our right-hand console, this is where the operator is going to make some of these adjustments. So in terms of doing this on the fly or moving through the field, you're going to make adjustments to the automatic crop settings the same way that you would make adjustments to the machine. So any adjustments are still going to be done over here on the right-hand console. So maybe we need to bump our concave setting down ever so slightly. So we can see here we're at 20 millimeters right now. Maybe we want to bump that down to 16. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the minus side there and close it down to 16 millimeters. Okay. Now, in order to save these new settings to our work condition so that we can recall them at a later date, I actually need to start up and run the combine. So the combine needs to be running, and we need to have the separator turning in order to get this function to occur. So I'm going to go ahead and start the combine here. All right. So I have the combine engine running now, and I need to throw the separator switch in forward. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so engine running, separator switch in forward, and you can see that my save button has now gone from gray to black, meaning that all of my settings that I have, we can now save to our drought work condition. All right, so if I hit the save button here, it's going to automatically save everything that I have in terms of rotor speed, concave clearance, upper sieve and lower sieve settings, and then fan speed as well. So we have stored these settings to that work condition. Okay, now maybe you get into another area of the field where the drought conditions change again. Maybe the cobs continue to get even smaller, and on a concave basis we need to compensate for that. Okay, now what we would need to do, just like we had done previously, is find our concave adjust switch, and maybe we want to bump that down to 14 now. So I'm going to hold down on the minus side until we get it down to 14. Come back up. Now, what you can see is that both our save and our recall buttons have gone from gray to black, meaning that our current machine settings over here are different than what our work condition currently has saved. So if we want to save these current machine settings into our new work condition, we need to hit the save button. All right, very good. Now, what we have saved is now saved into our work condition, and you can see that both of these buttons have been grayed out. Now, once again, maybe I get into that area of the field where my crop conditions and corn yield and such comes back up. We have some better yielding corn, better standing corn, all of the above. All the operator needs to do is go in, tap on work condition. We're going to go into select, and we're going to go back to our default. So again, our operator manual based settings. Okay. So once we select default, you can see that our recall button turned from gray to black, meaning that our current machine settings differ from our default work condition or our operator manual by the book settings. So all we have to do if we want to apply our operator manual settings to our current machine settings is hit the set or recall button. So if I tap on that, you can see that the machine automatically starts making adjustments. So fan speed, concave clearance was changed once again, so we go back from 14 millimeters back to the operator manual setting of 20 millimeters. And now we have this machine set to the operator manual specifications. All right, and the third and final button to talk about in our machine settings window is our I or information button. So if I click on our I button, we can see several things. 5 items that are going to be monitored by our ACS system. So again, we have rotor speed, fan speed, concave opening, lower sieve, and then upper sieve if we scroll a little farther down. All right, now for each one of these items that we're monitoring with ACS, we have a setting. So what the work condition currently has stored for a setting that's saved to it, and then current, or what our machine is currently running at. Okay, so you can see each one of these has a setting and a current option, and that's how we're going to be able to kind of quickly check up and take a quick glimpse at what we have for a save setting and then what the machine is currently doing. All right, I'm going to shut the combine off here real quick. All right, now, last thing to talk about when discussing ACS are some potential issues or warning icons that the operator could have pop up on his display while using ACS. So down here in the lower left-hand corner of the display, in the status and warning icon area, the operator can potentially see 3 icons pop up. The first one would be a cannot reach machine setting. Now, usually this means, or more often than not, this means that the rotor speed cannot be met. And usually what this is due to is the combine is requesting a higher RPM for that rotor speed than what the rotor gearbox current gear will allow the combine to reach. So as an example, if you were going into wheat and needed to get a higher RPM value than what first gear of that rotor gearbox would mechanically allow you to achieve, it would give you a cannot reach machine setting icon popping up in that lower left-hand status and warning icon area. Now, in addition to that, if it is in fact a rotor speed issue where we cannot go slow enough or cannot go fast enough for the specific crop type and specific work condition requested, you will also get a shift rotor up or shift rotor down icon in addition to our cannot reach machine setting down in the status and warning icon area. All right, and that's all there is to setting up ACS or automatic crop settings on a mid-range combine.